Okay, this is interesting because people are calling all over the country and saying, hey, whenever you go to Detroit, your lectures are the best. It was interesting because they got people call all out from California and all, and they buy up, especially in New York. Whenever they see the ones with Chicago, with Detroit on them, they buy the they buy the videos up, even all the old ones and stuff. So that's interesting and stuff like that. No, so that's a good thing. Happy to be here with Aya Heru Productions organization. At this particular time, it's a great time. You know what I'm saying? We got what's the date? 18th, Friday. June 18th, Friday, 2004. You know, we got old racists dying, biting the dust. You know, and certain gods making the transition, as we know, Brother Ray Charles did. We're going to go into some of that type of stuff and show you exactly what's going on as far as a ritual that was done with the whole Reagan thing, trying to encapsulate him and make him, deify him into a great patriarchal father for the United States, which in actuality, when you look at white people and a code, he was a great man as far as they were concerned, you know, as far as they were concerned, because it set white supremacy back in motion. You know, we're going to pour libations. Like I said, we always have some new deities. We got a lot to cover because there's a lot of things that went on. A lot of things that, fortunately for this particular time, you know, all of the 1990s and stuff, all of this stuff was set to theory on what would happen and what we would like to happen to black people and what we would like to happen as far as our future. We are actually on the threshold of it, even though we might not know it. We're on the threshold of it, even when it comes to our own bodies and what's going down as far as the alchemical or the molecular structure, the human genome, all that stuff when it comes to our bodies. All of that is happening at this particular time. Take, for instance, go back and watch the movie Unbreakable, especially when it comes to conscious people. Unbreakable, 2000, Bruce Willis, because that's the story about us, or what we would return to as far as being unbreakable. And as of 2004, a lot of things now are set just based on dealing with the mind. So a lot of things you can bypass. Even Phil Valentine had made this observation that a whole lot of the vitamin thing is a hoax. White folks telling you that you need 1,000 vitamins, and that's just for them. Whereas with us, most of that particular stuff you can do with the mind. You know, with the mind, and all you got to do is just like cooking. You ever, when you got a whole lot of food in the house, it's hard to be creative. As soon as you get down to just a few items, there's something to come out of you. Well, what you got in the cabinet, you can make a meal better than what you can when you have a whole lot of food. Well, it's the same thing with the whole health thing. When you get to the point where you run out of, you don't have no vitamins or you don't have no medicine in the house that you need. You got a whole bunch of stuff. It's amazing how you can use your own mind to get rid of things and to heal yourself, all because you don't have that crutch. You see what I'm saying? In the medicine cabinet. We know that because we know that most of the people that stayed sick, like I had two, a grandmother and an aunt, about a year apart. An aunt and a year apart, and they both died in their 80s. But it was interesting. My grandmother, being the school teacher, used to have a dresser drawer full of drugs in the particular aspect of prescription medicine. And her sister across the street, who used to teach school, but she had stopped teaching since I think her 30s or her 20s, and stuff. You know, she lived a much more humble lifestyle as far as finances. My grandmother was always more sick than she was. You see what I'm saying? Because the simple fact, because her life didn't consist of a whole lot of prescription medicine, she was never sick. So that means, for the mere fact that my grandmother had access to it and her sister didn't have access to it, my grandmother was always got something going on. Although she kept herself alive for another 20 years just off of goody powders. You know, it was interesting because in 1981, they went to the hospital and they said she had the heart of an 18-year-old. And they was all baffled. They wanted to have all kind of science come and probe her. And my mama said, shit, they don't know that's them goody powders. Which is caffeine and aspirin. So that whole concept of the aspirin is good for your heart and all, I know that happened to be true. Because I know she lived an extra 10 years just off them goodies and BCs and standbacks. But anyway, the concept here is, we don't know it now, but we are unbreakable at this particular time, as far as we're talking about the melanin that mutated. And the only reason what is stopping us from understanding these particular things is we got to get, it's all in the mind. Especially of 2004, because we're talking about now that the feminine realm is completely taken over, the realm of the Great Mother, and this ushering in of Venus solidifies that. So this Venus transient thing right now is complete return of the divine feminine, which means also that everybody's mind and everybody's body is also controlled by the heart chakra. So what is happening here is that people are having shortcomings and failing is because they are not being true to self and not being, their heart is not in it, or they have undercurrent thoughts. And you can lie to some people, but you can't lie to the spirit. Mm-hmm.
Yesterday the 3 digit was 666, and then in the morning and at night it was 999.
666999. Wow, it's interesting. So we know that this realm that we are here, and so I'm saying this for the simple fact is, a person has been researching this stuff for years and did all this particular information, but all of the 90s and all of the time, because I've been doing this for about 13 years as far as lecturing. And all of the 90s, it was all a forecast of what was going to be in the future. You see what I'm saying? Now what we're talking about here is being on the verge of this thing coming in. And we're not talking about years off. We're talking about stuff that's happening right now, because that is crucial. That's the reason why they would have that procession of Ronald Reagan that was bigger than anything we've seen. You see, and white folks, I mean literally, this thing was fit for royalty. And that was all a ritual that is going down at the particular time. It's all key. Certain things you got to revisit, even with the Iraqi war. Go get George Orwell. We're going to do a lot of tapes and stuff you got to go back and get. Get George Orwell, 1984, the one that was made in 1984. Because there was one in George Orwell, 1984. The book came out in 1948, and I think the movie came out in 48. But then there was one that was made in 1984 that was Richard Burton's last movie right before he died. I think he died a month after it was finished. That's the one, because the mystery here is, for the mind control to take over, there has to be a war constantly going on. The war must never end. And as you see, they're calling more and more troops. They're getting ready to reinstate the draft. The war has to go on. They're saying it in so many words. If you get George Orwell, 1984, as long as there is a war going on, you can get people to stoop and do anything you want them to do. You see what I'm saying? As long as the war is going on, even if the war is propaganda. That's why it's crucial that you get that movie, because the simple fact is, it's very hard to find. Now you can go to the Blockbuster and get it on VHS. I don't know if they got it on DVD, but you can get it on VHS and copy it. You see what I'm saying? But that's the movie. George Orwell was 1984, but the one that's done in 84 with Richard Burton. Because a lot of the stuff that's going on, there's a war has to be going on at all times. And the threat of terrorism, that whole thing, we're going to go into some aspects of that in a few minutes. We got a lot of stuff to cover. Ironically, if you haven't seen this, I'll show you these pictures and stuff. And We might be able to get some of these tomorrow for sale. A few people, I sent a few of them up here. This is a picture from the, I sent a few up to Detroit a couple of months ago. This is a picture of a guy by the name of Charles Henry Joseph. He went to Africa in 1848 to do this picture of a Sudanese king in 1848. When he got down to do this particular picture of this brother, he saw this African beauty that he was so smitten by. He came back about 5 years later, I think it was 1851, and did this and called it African Venus. Let me put this on the tape. Call it African Venus. We gonna do some of these tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay. So, call it African Venus. Anyway, I went to the name of the museum. I went to the museum, the Walters Art Gallery in Baltimore, Maryland. And I went there in October, I think November the 1st. November the 1st to the 31st. When I walked in, the spirit told me, come over here and get this brochure. And when I got a little small brochure, I saw this particular picture of this particular woman. And after the exhibit, I had to go in and look for her, and I found this particular woman. So she literally called me in and in so many words, and so when I got the channel on it, said, black people need to see this. Because the first thing was, there was an argument going on in the early 1990s on whether dreadlocks originated in Africa or whether it originated in the Caribbean. The argument with some of the Afrocentrists that was so firm in Egypt was that the black boys wore dreadlocks to the age of 9 or something, and then they cut them. But dreadlocks was not an African thing, and in so many words, they had this big argument going on. I think they even had arguments going on at Morehouse College and stuff on whether it originated in Africa. As you can see, this picture is there's no shadow of a doubt. You see, that dreadlocks originated in Africa, and even the brother has them on. If he didn't have this thing covering his head, he even has the dreadlocks. I want to put that, yeah. But this particular picture proves that it originated in Africa. Now, it's interesting because this woman literally, I got it from when we walked in the museum, there was a little brochure, and I just went over and I didn't know what it was. It was just a brochure, and I picked it up, and on the inside of the brochure was the picture. So it was a spirit thing, and as a result, people who got the picture, it's been talking to some people. One girl got a Xerox copy off of a fax. Somebody sent her a black and white, and the spirit was talking to her. Now, ironically, they call it the African Venus, but as we know, the whole thing went down with Venus, last week? Venus, the transient, where Venus lined up with the earth and the sun last week. So this is this African Venus, which is the goddess Hathor, and if you really do some real work on it, it's the goddess Hathor, the goddess Ishtar, the goddess Urzuli, the goddess Yeminya, because some think it was Oshun, but it was actually Yeminya and Olokun in Yoruba. The goddess Astarte and the Roman goddess Venus. The Roman goddess Venus and the goddess Aset. Isis is connected with Venus because you can't separate the goddesses. Hathor, Isis, Aset, Sekhmet, and Maya are different phases of the same entity. And Nephthys, which is supposed to be the Maya sister, is nothing but her neglected inner half. So the goddess Inanna, all these are connected with this particular planet Venus and the star Sirius. So the solar aspect, which would be the sun or the star, would be the star Sirius. But the planetary aspect of the goddess love is the planet Venus. Now, out of all those planets that we talk about in the solar system, you only have that one that's feminine. Because you got Mercury, Jupiter is the father of the gods, you got Saturn. Saturn can go back and forth, but mostly Saturn is still connected with a male deity, but in the Kabbalistic aspect, Saturn is also connected as a feminine principle. But in traditional aspect, the goddess Venus, Venus is always the feminine planet. Now this is very crucial. I'm gonna pull libation in a few minutes. It's very crucial because in some way, this is why a lot of the masculine, even in the Afrocentric or the black conscious or the black community period, this is why a lot of your masculine figures have either retired or killed or being on lockdown, like they gave your boy 130 years, Dr. York. So on one aspect, if there was a spiritual aspect that they had aligned with, there would be no way that the government or anybody could kill them or suggest they retire or either lock them up. That means that when the World Trade Center fell, if you look at the Tarot card, because you know the Tarot coming out of Kemet, in Crawleys Tarot, well, he had the Book of Thoth, which is very hard to understand. Crawley was half crazy, and he wrote a certain way. This particular book by Lon Milo Duquette that just came out, I think, in March, is Understanding Crawleys Tarot, which is really breaks it down precisely. So this is the one to get. The reason why I always suggest Crawleys Tarot is because Crawley put back a lot of stuff that was lost in the Tarot by them just going and just reprinting and doing things certain over a 700-year period. After the Moors introduced the Tarot system, a lot of stuff was lost. Crawley was able to put back a lot of the iconology and a lot of the symbology of the Tarot in the Book of Thoth because of the channelings of the god Aiwass, and also his mentor Gerald Massey, which he mentions in the Book of Thoth faintly. You know, he mentions Gerald Massey, and his latest on his student Kenneth Grant said that Crawley was more indebted to Gerald Massey than he put in the Book of Thoth, and in the book The Magic he quotes a little thing as far as his bibliography said, read Gerald Massey. So a lot of the iconology that Gerald Massey gave up, Crawley put back into the Tarot deck. So his is one of the most advanced. Unfortunately, this book was written the last book of his life, 1947. Crawley was already neurotic, so the book is kind of hard to understand. This particular one by Lon Milo Duquette is called Understanding Aleister Crawley's Thoth Tarot. So I recommend this particular book. I recommend this particular book because there's certain things, but in the Tarot card, the Towers, which we talked about in my tape, the World Trade Center, that they said when those towers in the Tarot card, they have a picture of lightning striking the towers. And they said whenever those towers fall, this means it's a changing of the guard from the old garrison. Now, whether we do know now that the World Trade Center was built for them to bomb. Because I often wondered, here it is, you building a building that's supposed to eclipse the Empire State Building. It's going to be the tallest building in the world at the particular time, before the Sirius Tower that opened up, I think, a year after, or a couple of months after it was built. It was supposed to be the tallest building in the world. And they had been talking about the World Trade Center since the 1940s. They got the funding in the 50s and the early 60s. And then you're going to turn around and get a Japanese to build it? So you got to understand the racist mind. So automatically bells started ringing. Wait a minute, hold on now. Here's the people. We're in the middle of the 60s. You see what I'm saying? They broke ground in 1966. Hell, they had to kill Robert Kennedy or Martin Luther King at that particular time. This was 1 year after the death of Malcolm X. You see what I'm saying? And 3 years after Kennedy. And you're saying you're going to give this to a Japanese American at that particular time when racism was still prevalent? That is because the only reason why they gave it to him to build this thing, the architect, because they knew they was going to tear this thing down in the beginning. Now, like I said, I have a picture now to piggyback off of this whole World Trade Center, because all this stuff is connected. Even this stuff with Reagan and all this is all connected. And I talked about this the last time I came, that when they had the 1-year anniversary of the World Trade Center, they didn't do it this year, past year, but they did it the year after. They had all these specials on the World Trade Center and the bombing and all that. The Spirit told me, no, don't go to none of the traditional, go to HBO. And go to HBO, because HBO will show something that the other ones don't have. And they had a clear, panoramic, widescreen version of the World Trade Center being hit. Which means if it was not scheduled to be hit, that means the only kind of type of imagery you got is amateur. Usually shaky, usually grainy. But you wouldn't have no cinematography type of view of the World Trade Center, not unless you knew it was going to be it. You see? And they showed this thing and all, because we don't catch on to nothing. First of all, HBO is owned by a group out of England, which just goes to prove that all of this stuff is run by the British, including the fake Revolutionary War. Now, how the hell 9 people gonna beat the British Empire? About 9 damn people coming out of some woods supposed to beat the British Empire. You see what I'm saying? And they had one of the greatest naval fleets in the world, and they're supposed to beat them. That particular Revolutionary War was the same fake stuff that's going on in Iraq, World War II, Korea, all of that. War has been manufactured for the last 200 years. You see what I'm saying? So this whole, which means in actuality we're nothing but a province or a colony of Britain. Now I say that to give you a deeper insight of what's going on in the whole Iraqi war. But the key here is, Crawley mentions in the tarot card of the Book of Thoth that there will be a changing of the guard. And he said, whenever this tarot card, when you see this tarot card called the Towers, and it has 2 lightning striking it, that means the old garrison given over to the new garrison. The changing of the guard, which is very key, because it all goes back down to what also happened with this whole deification of Reagan, one of the greatest racists ever known. You see what I'm saying? At this particular time. I want to pour some libations right quick, and so we can get in this, because we got a lot to cover. Which is very interesting here, because we're always dealing with warfare. Now, to understand warfare, you got to understand what is going on there. If whatever is going on in that Iraq is fake, that means there's always got to be something spiritual going on. If we know that they manufactured this war, then that means, then what is the purpose or what is the motive? That means if they're manufacturing something, that means there's got to be something spiritual that they're also fighting. Now, very interesting. In looking, and we've said before, they will have you do anything political, and they will have you do anything economical. They'll have you do anything but to go back to your original science, which was your magic, which was your alchemical aspect of how you moved in Africa, the Nile, Mesopotamia, all that stuff, which we call Northeast Africa, this whole Mesopotamian thing. But the mystery here is, if there's a physical warfare, there has to be a spiritual warfare. Okay. They have airplanes, they have all types of new tanks, they have all this weaponry. That means we must look for devices of our warfare. Now, we know that in the papyruses, especially if you get 2 books, nobody likes Budge, but everybody depends on Budge. Not for whatever, but Budge had access to the whole British Museum for years. So even everybody, even Dr. Ben, all the scholars, you very seldom see anybody who don't use Budge, although Budge didn't understand a lot of stuff, but he just translated a lot, but you can still use the translations. That's why 2 books is very key. I would suggest, if it's still in print, From Fetish to Gods of Ancient Egypt, which is his last book in 1935, after Budge admitted that Egyptian culture was primarily African, and the Egyptian people was primarily African. His last book in 1935 was From Fetish to God in Ancient Egypt. And it is a book that I have relied on for the last 13 years. It's an excellent book. Dr. Charles Finch used the book a lot. Used the book. Or a smaller book called The Legends of the Gods in Ancient Egypt. If you get the From Fetish to God in Ancient Egypt, you're getting 3 times as much text, and you get in the back part of the book is the complete legend of the God. So I suggest get the From Fetish to God in Ancient Egypt, because we're dealing with warfare. There's a serious text in there called The Legend of Heru and the Winged Disc of Edfu. The Legend of Heru and the Winged Disc of Edfu, which is equivalent to the Iraqi war and the European powers. Here's a text that's talking about our powers, whereas in the Book of the Law they say, I will give you a war engine. So if anybody says, well, I don't want to deal with all that old crazy spooky stuff, why is it that in that text, if you say you don't believe in Kemet, then why are you not believing in the text? Where in the text, if you say, oh, you know, I don't deal with nothing but history, I don't deal, that's some crazy hocus pocus stuff, but why don't you read the text? Well, there's a whole text. We must explain this text. Why is there this text about the Legend of Winged Disc of Edfu? Which means this is dealing with a certain amount of power, it depends on how you access it. And I'll explain that in a few minutes. But dealing with that, you need to get 2 books. Osiris 1 and 2 by Budge. Osiris, Egyptian Resurrection, book 1 and book 2. Very serious book, because this one brother did deep studies, including Dr. Ben Finch and all. They used those particular books by Budge, Osiris, Egyptian Resurrection. And in those books, during Christmas of this 2003, I went back in and started studying those books, and those books have an entire regiment of ships. They call them boats, or they call them vessels, they call them ships. In that particular book, there's a lineup of boats or ships. Now, what this means is we're talking about something spiritual here that's on the flip side of what we're dealing with this white man power and him still jacking off as being so, you know what I'm saying, so great. In there, there's a whole lineup of ships. The Mayatek boat, the Sektek boat, the Seka boat, the Hinu boat, the Horus boat, the Aturti boat, the Hin boat, the Af boat, the Hinbu boat, the Ra boat, the Antu boat, the Mut boat, the Osiris boat, the Isis boat. What we want to do is we want to get a list of these ships. These are things that you can call out at this particular time for protection and for power. Because these boats are not physical. That is the whole thing that's going on here. We're going to go into some of that. But these boats are indicating, if you break it down back to your body, it's indicating not only stuff that you can actually see in the ether, but something that is on the inside of you. You see, and it's in there, these particular boats throughout those Budge's resurrection, and the text coming from Fetish to God. Now this is very key on warfare that we're dealing with here. We are so close in a particular aspect of things are working, whereas I can testify to this. Like I said, what was a lot of research and scholarship that was a projection on what would happen and what could happen, and theories became reality. You see, became reality. And so all of a sudden, if these particular boats, this is power, and we'll name them again, and you can write these particular boats or these particular ships down. Anything to keep you from getting power to your power, and at this particular time, the stuff is just waiting around. It's like we don't have to wait for it to come. It's already here. It's just that we got to realize that it is here. That it is here, and work that particular magic. So let me go into let's pour some libations right quick, and then we can pour some libations, and then we can start the lecture. Okay, y'all all right? All right. You know the drill. Zarabanda. El Cristo Negro. El Cristo Rey. Mama Shola. La Santísima Muerte. La Santísima Piedra Iman. San Simón. La Spiritus and Tranquilas. Madre de la Luna. Madre de Agua. Francisco Siete Reyes. Siete Reyes. Ista. Mono. Noku. Mana. Inmatu. Titi. Joba. Otincha. Tiacha. Sheola. Shumala. Omagumu. Alcala. Locayo. Cacumbo. La Lila. Owalensi. Exantes, Casimbo, Nisabat Isala, Althea Lucaya, Pazuzu, Lucifer, Anubaresh, Babylonia, Babylon, Aya, Io, Elmelech, Dracon, Notorio. This is some coming from right out of this is the yo thing. I always add them. What's happening here is people, there's entities that's coming down, and people from, well, it was a lot of sisters getting these things and all, and getting these particular things and all. But you was able to get 3 of them. What's that? Mona, what was it? Monu, Noku, and Letu. Ilhalo, Pele, Notorio. What these are new entities that came to the earth within the last 4 years. Labido, Luigi, Atama, Orowado, Powa, Ogawadi, Leoa, Goduga, Biwasta, Amatis, Arudagate, Aset, Osa, New Isis, Osa Seka, Sebek, Sabdu, Sahu, Sakaris, Urzuli, Boomba, Kita, Brigitte, Marasha, Ban Samadi, Dambalawedo, Edawedo, Mama Shola, Mama Shula, Mama Pasha, Chieska, Coco Mama, Leoa, Telesios, Axiel, Kosiku, Shintio, Chinawita, Atawan, Alatin, Maka, Estonatiti, Shuganadek, which is these what I'm calling out here are a group of Native American entities. This is very key right now because we cannot deny that one of the things that we did have in indigenous people from the aspect of slavery, even before then and even after, was a union with Native American entities. You see what I'm saying? Which we can pretty much say was Aztec and Olmec, as Dr. Delbert Blair said. This whole concept of some shit coming from China is even crazy. You see what I'm saying? A lot of this stuff here is just, we're going to clear up some of this in a few minutes. A lot of this stuff is we can't even buy this stuff of the Bering Straits and these Chinese people, whereas the Chinese people are lighter than the Native Americans. You see what I'm saying? So you got black people coming from lighter people. It's a whole lot of stuff to keep people confused and deny the Olmec Aztec aspect, you see what I'm saying, and Moorish aspect of the Native Americans. You see what I'm saying? And this white folks lying, because the average Native American was your color at the turn of the century. So ain't no way in hell you gonna get a person your color and then you supposed to be coming from fucking the Asians. That at the turn of the century the Asians was white as they look now. You see, it's a whole lot of crazy stuff going down. So we want to access some of these particular aspects of the particular spirits. Of the particular spirits. Sutnasis, Sutnubit, Newt, Hadit, Rahartuit, Apit, Apep, Anubaresh, Anubis, Anpu, Kanum, Kanununum, Lamat, Lam, Lamitu, Mama, Sebek Hep, Ranesi, Janesi, That'll be sufficient for right now and all, because when you call most of these things interconnected, when you still calling the same deities over and over and all, so this is all good anyway and stuff. They know what time it is. You know, we act like they retarded. You know what I'm saying? So they know exactly what time it is. But dealing with some of this, I was talking about coming over in the car, how this white boy traced his history back to try to, you know, this white boy had the gall to try to trace his history, to try to explain the origins of the white race. Right before Christmas, I saw this stuff on PBS. Oh man, they went back to China and everything and all, trying to just make this lie, but they fucked up, because what they did is they found this family up in North Pole, at the Antarctic, at the Arctic Circle up in Russia, and it completely dismantles the whole Diop theory and the Afrocentric theory that white folks mutated in the Ice Age. I'll get into that in a few minutes. Well, I'll go into this now. It completely dismantles this. They came on and they said, well, you know, we know that we came out of Africa. First of all, at the end of the show, they say, let it be known that no matter whatever race we are on this planet, we are all Africans. I said, oh, wait a minute now, hold on now. Here got a light going off now. We are all Africans. And so I said, okay, let's see what's going on here. All of a sudden now they're trying to include themselves in the human race. So they would rather say we are Africans. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on now. They said no matter what argument, remember that we are all Africans. This is PBS in a documentary put out by white folks. I said, okay, now this is 2003, and all of a sudden they want to be Africans. Now, it's the whole stuff that's going on this way. Even they got your boy Tony Brown. I don't know if it's still coming up. It still comes on in parts of the country. Tony Brown's journal, which he is I think Pepsi-Cola is the main person, and a couple other these major corporations. So they came out and said, look, they came to Tony Brown and said, look, you got to go, because, you know, in this particular case, whatever black person that has a show is under the behest of who funds him. So Pepsi-Cola and them say, no, the new thing here is there is no race. So what they're saying here is, and Tony Brown is on this crusade to prove that what the white boy told him, that the racial aspect between black and white or anybody else is only a few percentage of genes, like 3 or 4 different genes, and that's it. So in so many words, he's trying to say that there's no difference between black and white people. Just a few genes. Here goes again, they're still trying to include themselves into the human race. Now, we'll go back into that in a few minutes. So now, they say that they're going to prove that the white man, you know, they're going to try to do with the origin of white people. They say, well, we all came out of Africa. Then they said, there's 8,000 years of history that's missing between when the white people came out of Africa to the modern white man. So automatically this program is about the origin of white people. So they went on and talked about and concluded that they came from the Asians, because they was setting this thing up back in 99 or 98 or 99. They started setting this thing up on Nova, which is a real racist show, on the white and Asian phenomenon. So they said, but this show, they did a little better. Oh no, they said, no, we're not gonna go with theory. We're gonna go to Asia. So they went to some part of Asia, near Tibet or whatever, and found this man, this family, and said, you are our ancestors. You know, you are our ancestors. Okay. Then it gets a little funky than that. They said, what we want to do, they said, well, how are we going to trace the white folks? They went up to Antarctica. No, they went to Russia, to the Arctic Circle in the North Pole. Now, white people digging to, I appreciate them digging this far, because they dug up. When they did this way, they proved something. They went up, there's a white man, now he ain't like us. He ain't gonna just know, he gonna find out. So this white man goes up into the top of Russia and find a group of people that live in the ice. Now this ain't no Eskimo. Eskimo is South Florida compared to this shit here. These people here was, these people, in order for them to get there, they had to fly in, and they had to take snowmobiles, and then for the next 100 miles or something, the next 100 miles, they couldn't even go with snowmobiles, so they said all that freezes up. They had to go they said fuck dogs, they had to go on reindeer. Serious business. They didn't have no dogs, no damn that. They had to get on, driven by reindeer or some kind of elk or something, because everything else just freezes up. Now they found these people in Antarctica, in the Arctic Circle, that look like me. Now, when they showed these people that live up in this cold place, in the North Pole, like I say, Eskimo is almost resort area. And these people were dark as me, or a little bit lighter. In 2003, this completely obliterates the entire aspect, mutating white and blue hair and blonde eyes, blue eyes and blonde hair in the Ice Age. Because number one, Europe has seasons. It gets hot in Europe. You understand what I'm saying? In the summertime, Europe has seasons. It always had seasons. Hell, it had seasons when black people used to live there. So now, I'm trying to get you to understand this. Here's some people that's living in the most remote part of the North Pole. If you want to talk about Santa Claus and reindeer, these people was up here, and they didn't have no blue eyes and no blonde hair, and they was dark-haired people with black eyes or dark brown eyes. Okay? Then you can't say that the people who later on became Europeans in Europe mutated based on ice. When we got people, they found the Iceman. And he's black. You see what I'm saying? So then they say that these people traveled into Alaska and got trapped in Alaska for 500 years. And then down on into America, where the people in America are blacker than the Alaskans. You see what I'm saying? Because the Native Americans are dark-skinned people. So, first of all, they have basically dismantled this whole Ice Age theory, because they got a group of people in 2003 when they went there last year, or 2002, because maybe a year after, that are black. You understand what I'm saying? Or dark, and yet you still don't have no blue-eyed, pasty skin white. You see, so they're proven that whole concept of them mutating in the Ice Age is fake. Then they go back to this particular thing, whereas they talk about, or told the Native Americans that their ancestry come from people in Asia. You see what I'm saying? Whereas, but yet people have some Native Americans are real dark-skinned people. You see what I'm saying? So how can you have lighter-skinned people turning back dark? So the whole thing is a group of lies, but number one, it is to encapsulate them into the human race, because they kept saying at the end of the program that we are all Africans. Now they got your boy, he even found a black scholar, Tony Brown, that say that in actuality, this whole concept of race don't exist. That based on genetics, that black people and white people are the same. You see what I'm saying? Yet, I looked at Russell J. Reeder's book, and it had over 30 pages of bibliography alone with hundreds and hundreds of research labs, books, and different things that they're doing on melanin alone, and yet we're supposed to be all different. We're supposed to be the same. Now, Sister Fanny pointed out that, let me get the statistics right to put on the tape, that you said it was, what was it?
Yeah, I ran across 15 to 20,000 different papers.
20,000 different articles, summaries, papers,
Pigment cell research,
and pigment cell research.
melatonin,
20-something thousand, and they say that's in 1 year alone. It's just in 1 year. They say because the next year it's got to change because melanin changes. So these white folks got 20,000 articles on melanin research, and that's and skin, pigment, and all of that in 1 year. The next year, they got to put up something new because the melanin changes year to year.
you would pull it out all over the world like they had as far as, I could have even got the papers from Russia, but I couldn't use that.
It's just so much. When I looked at the Russell J. Reeder book, Melanin, melatonin, your body's own wonder drug, and in the back of that book, they had 30 pages of just bibliography alone with research labs. That means that 98% of all research is melanin research, and yet we supposed to be all one race. You see what I'm saying? The key here is to get black people to believe that foolishness. The fact now here is white people are trying hard to be African. You see what I'm saying? Are trying hard to be Africans. Now, the whole concept here, well, if they want to call themselves Africans, fine. The point I'm trying to make here, what is the motive behind them doing this? Because remember now, they know things long before we do. You see what I'm saying? They know things long before we do. Based on what is happening, that all of a sudden you're going to have black folks even have Oprah with this foolishness. Yeah, they say when they deal with race, it's only a few cells that separate us. Bullshit. You see? But the concept here is, what is the motive that you all of a sudden spend your whole life hating Africans? Then all of a sudden, you want to be African. You know what I'm saying? Or you want to be anything. They don't want to be Asian. Hell, they dropped the bomb on Asia 50 years ago. But now they want to be Asian because they're trying to incorporate themselves within this human race or this particular human genome, which they went to. I might have talked about this the last time, and they went to they went over to Harvard University. Harvard University is the black Harvard University. They're doing more on human genome research than anybody in the country. They're basically taking all of the human genome stuff that they worked all these years to get all this human genome stuff, but they mapped the DNA. They set up camp at Harvard University. They're number one on the planet. And now they're charging, they're getting 25,000 black people to map their, paying 25,000 black people in this country to map their DNA. And this is going to be the basis of what the human genome research thing is. Let's put it this way, they all know that they fucking mutants or hybrids. So they didn't map no DNA evidence, and they did all this work over the last 50 years to get this human genome thing. They announced it all on the news. They all is here. And their conclusion is, we are getting ready to get the human DNA from 25,000 African Americans. You understand what's going on here? Because that's what the whole thing was created about, was to get the indigenous people around the planet. But let's start with the African Americans, or Black America, or whatever you want to call it, whatever these things is. You see, the ones that's located in America, and Howard University is the spearhead of this thing. That's the mystery here, because they're talking about the DNA within us that has, which is the key to the doggone planet, and that's why they got Howard University mapping out. You see what I'm saying? And so what they will do is, they say, well, it's going to be a certain population. So the certain population they want is middle class black people residing in America, because in middle class black people residing in America, you can get a lot more international. You can get your Africans, you can get your Caribbeans, you see what I'm saying? And you can get other international blacks that can go in that pool, you see what I'm saying, that might not be in the so-called underclass, because what poor motherfuckers gonna come over here? You see what I'm saying? They ain't gonna let you in the country. You see the mystery? So they want to get all of this type of thing here of the so-called African Americans, and Howard is now #1 on the planet. Right there out of D.C. Got to understand what's going on, because the key here is, despite what they're telling you with the distraction, this thing is still all about us. You see, still all about us. Let's go on. Take, for instance, they had the movie that came out with The Rock, which is black, called The Scorpion King. So they found 500 years Norma, which is supposed to be the founder of the Egyptian dynastic period, they found the Scorpion King, which comes with a whole hieroglyphic writing. There's a guy called the Scorpion King, and the whole movie was made off of that. That's why they got The Rock to play this thing, the Scorpion King. So anytime they call them Akkadians also, too. Anytime you hear that thing, but you're supposed to be Mesopotamians, and this word Akkadian, but yet the Akkadians was black, because it was also, he was an Akkadian, and the guy, I can't think of the other guy that was the black guy, dark-skinned guy played along with him, was Akkadian. All these different races, in so many words, are still all black. But they traced the Scorpion King as a pre-dynastic king in Kemet that predates Norma with hieroglyphic writing, and then they had to go and say, well, we thought that the hieroglyphic writing came from Sumer, or Samaria, the cuneiform, and from the cuneiform, the Egyptians turned some little tablets, little clay tablets, or some wheat tablets or barley into the advanced hieroglyphics. But now they're admitting we were wrong. These hieroglyphics predate the Sumerian stuff. You see what I'm saying? So, and they said, well, we thought, we was looking to see, we thought that it would start from a primitive stage, then go into full advanced hieroglyphics. They said, no, these things were advanced from the beginning. So they got this whole Scorpion King, so they're giving up a lot of history on this particular aspect, on this particular aspect and all. But they got this particular Scorpion King, which is, they made the movie behind and put The Rock within this thing. You see what I'm saying? So just some things that is dealing with it, like take for instance, you have the group the Cathars. Now, the Cathars were a group of black folks. They were actually Egyptian priests from the Coptic era that was which is in Coptic Egypt and in Rome, and later Rome migrated up into Europe. They was in Rome because the key here is the entire Christian ship was plagiarized from the Coptics, and a group of those priests from the Coptics were called the Cathars, which the Cathars migrated, and so once they copied these particular people's aspect of Christianity and turned it into the European version of that, and tried to corner the market on this Christ thing, then they said, and when the Cathars complained and the Gnostics, Coptic or later-day Egyptians complained, said that shit there is some pseudo-Christianity, which this particular thing is just another version of the Horus King or Heru King or whatever in the Coptic aspect. And when they complain and stuff, they say, we kill off all the Cathars or kill off all the Gnostics. So as a result, a lot of Gnostics migrated on up into Paris, which is city of Isis, and France, and built cathedrals, and all of your cathedrals are named after the Cathars. There's a book called they're coming out with all this stuff. There's a book called, what's the name of this book? Y'all all right? All right. The Mysteries of the Great Cross of HEMMITT-THE, H-E-N-D-A-Y-E. The Mysteries of the Great Cross of HEMMITT-THE by J. Weidner and Vincent Bridges. And it's talking about the Cathars and all these particular people who migrated up into Rome. That's where you get the Merovingian. You saw it, the Merovingian that you saw on the Matrix 2 and 3. Well, the Merovingian is a Cathar. So this book breaks down the whole Merovingian bloodline that they talked about in Matrix. This book is extensive. It goes into this. It's called The Great Cross, the Mysteries of the Great Cross of HEMMITT-THE, H-E-N-D-A-Y-E, by J. Weidner, W-E-I-D-N-E-R, and Vincent Bridges. And they talk about the Cathars. Now the Cathars later on travel up into Bosnia, which later on we had got this war with Bosnia where they got the ethnic cleansing. So your Cathars was up in the Bosnia, you see what I'm saying, which is the so-called ethnic cleansing, as well as some of this particular stuff here got a Moorish connection. Because you also have, aren't they Islamic people in Russia? A whole group of Islamic people. Well, how the hell would they get there if they weren't Moors? Okay? Now we know that the Islamic people that they show in these documentaries of Russia, who have a real deal Islamic culture that is somewhat different than the Islamic culture from the Arabia, but they got this unique culture, and they'll show you these modern day Russian so-called people of Islam. The mystery here is they show you the modern day because they wouldn't show you this in the 1940s, the 1930s, and the 1920s, because at that particular time they were all black. Now remember, your boy Joseph Stalin, how many million he killed? He killed 100 million. Now, think about this, because we're talking about ethnic cleansing. You can't have one man decide to kill 100 million. See, you can kill 100 million of another race or another group of people outside of your country. But if you just said, if Bush just came up and say, tell the army to go in and kill 100 million Americans, you see what I'm saying? The government would be overthrown in a matter of a day. You understand where I'm coming from? The concept here, the reason why they could kill 100 million of their own people, because it was ethnic cleansing. They was killing 100 million of anywhere from black people to so-called different racial makeup that was in Russia. Now remember your boy, what's his name, Patton. General Patton was an embarrassment, the so-called establishment. Well, General Patton said that they wasn't nothing but a bunch of damn niggers, the Russians, and said that they was not a pure race of people. You see what I'm saying? They were not a pure race of people. So Stalin comes up and he kills 100 million of these people. Think about it. And they kill 100 million, and always when they're killing these people, the rest of the world don't know about it until later. You see what I'm saying? So they kill 100 million of these people. This is nothing but ethnic cleansing of the original black people. You see what I'm saying? That was up in there. And we see the later aspect of that same thing. Bosnia was inhabited by the Cathars, where you get the word cathedral, which is these black Egyptian priests, which was called the Merovingians. That's why he wore the black. He wore black and he wore red in the movie The Matrix 2. Anybody saw The Matrix 2? In The Matrix 2, he wore black and red, right? Well, if you go to the Super Bowl this past February, Janet Jackson had on black and she had on red. You see, those are a certain amount of colors. Now, this whole concept that happened with the Super Bowl was, in 2000 or 99, one of the two, they were scared out of their mind because they really didn't know whether they would be here. See, they get arrogant when they wake up. And see, the beautiful part about it, when they monitor black people, and black people are so fucking savage now, till it makes the white man arrogant. He feels that no way can I be unseated because these niggas out here done lost their damn mind. Because he ain't getting nothing from us. And the conscious people are damn near hidden. The mystery here is, in 1999, I think it was 99, he was very afraid. So what they did was, in that Super Bowl, they installed the black goddess. They had Tina Turner come out. It represents the old Venus. So there's two Venus. There's an old Venus and a new Venus. This is very key, all the stuff we're talking about right now. So she came out and did her little dance. And then they had all the white folks in between the show. And then at the end, they had Toni Braxton rise up out of the stage with this long flowing white, and she represented Mayat. Since then, they're going near Venus at this particular time. They're very arrogant. They done went to war. You see what I'm saying? And kicked people in the behind. And this is a year later. And they're very arrogant. They say, but even in the ritual, they say, we must undo what we did. So as a result, this time, they strip her down, and the pulling off the breast is the same thing. The pulling off the clothes is the same thing when they used to rape black women in slavery and in Jim Crow and different things like that. The first thing you do is you rip off the clothes. And how you do it? You get one of the rising stars, a white boy, no talent. You see what I'm saying? Because see. There's one guy, see, it's always, they say, we don't want another Michael Jackson. So they got one guy that has all the talent, which is Usher, same age. And he's the true talent. Can dance, can sing, can do all the stuff. The white boy can't do nothing. So this guy, what's his name? Justin Timberlake. You see, so they bring him out, and he represents the new, or the extension of this white race still stealing people's shit. Right. And he rips off her breast. You see what I'm saying? It was all staged. They even got this fool in on it because it was all set up. And she does this. Then they don't invite her to the Grammys the next week until like the day of it. By that time she declined. But they invite the white boy. Now here it is. She's standing up there, and the white boy pulls off her. See, if you say the concept of this, if it was a mistake and a malfunction of the suit, which we know it wasn't, then she should be allowed to go to the Grammys as well as the white boy that they didn't deny going to the Grammys. Okay, if it was by design, that means you got to tell the white boy that he's not welcome. Not only does the white boy go to the Grammys, the white boy comes, he is the structure of the Grammys with an all-black band behind him. And the woman gets on stage and say Justin Timberlake is becoming a bit of a soul man. So all this is a great ritual to put the black woman back in her place, because this whole Venus thing is coming up. There's a whole lot of energy in this Mayatian year, which will go into the you see, but she had on the black and red. You see. She had on the black and red, and all this stuff was staged, and all of this is a big ritual. You see, doing what? Black History Month. Was that the start of Black History Month? Yeah. The start of Black History Month. At the same time, it was what, the 200-year anniversary? Was it 200-year anniversary of the Haiti Revolution? Yeah, the 200-year anniversary of the Haitian Revolution. All that stuff coincides. You see, so they go up into Haiti and got this whole thing that's going on. Kick Aristide out. The man that they put in 10 years before. You see what I'm saying? Which is all, anybody up in there is puppets. But the whole concept here is based on ritual. This is based on ritual. So the 200-year anniversary of the Haitian Revolution, all this stuff is going on at the same time. Going on at the same time as going down. And all this is a great ritual. What's that?
What about that cross she had hanging from her boot? She had a cross?
Oh, well, see, I know some of everything. I mean, you know, the whole concept here, and you got to get a Jackson. Because to them, that's still a royal bloodline despite what Michael Jackson ripped off his melanin, that's a raw bloodline. You see what I'm saying? So it's got to be a Jackson. You see what I'm saying? And she represents, she's the last of the Jacksons. She's the baby. You see what I'm saying? What's that? Mm-hmm. It's the same, it's some of the same ritualistic aspects that's going on. Now, number one, her breasts come out, what they're saying, number one, there's nothing bigger in the United States than the Super Bowl. No, they say that the Super Bowl is the biggest event in the world. Because with all that Stanley, all that, the soccer is internationally big, but America ain't into soccer at all. The biggest event in the world is the Super Bowl. There's nothing, they did a calculation, they said there's nothing bigger in the world than the Super Bowl. So for her breast to come out, what they say, 100 million people saw this thing? In prime time starts from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock as far as prime time viewing. Her breast came out at 7:45 or something like that. You see, now it's interesting because your boy Arsenio Hall said no. He said we still, because he saw right through the old bull whether it was a malfunction. That was just her apology. He said, what is the impact of a black woman getting her breasts and her clothes ripped off as a symbolic aspect of rape on the world stage? And he said, no black people are complaining about this thing. What is the symbolic gesture that's going on? Arsenio Hall said, or the black woman. And I said, yeah, because it's the same thing that they used to do it's the same thing they used to do when they was raping them from slavery on up. It's a whole big ritual that's going on and stuff. And all of that stuff was symbolic. And all of it, a lot of stuff had to happen in Black History Month, and it all had to happen before the spring equinox and before this Venus aspect of things. We're going to be dealing with a lot of the next 2 days. It gets even deeper than that. It gets even deeper than that. But it's very key that this whole thing that went down at that time, and it's all coinciding. I'm going to get back in that in a few minutes. I'm going to get back that in a few minutes. I want to do one thing right quick. I've been lecturing for 13 years. I've been basically doing the research about 16 years. I started lecturing about 13 years. I went to D.C. I was called to D.C. to meet a sister that was later on named Babylonia. It came Babylon and it came Babylonia. That's one event that I had to meet a certain entity and a sister called Babylonia that I've been knowing for years, but since the Million Woman March, but this entity came through her at the first of the year. The other thing, I traveled to D.C. to meet a brother about the same age, and the same time I was doing research, with all that I was doing during the lecture, this brother was completing about 13 years to put together. It's Black Encyclopedia Dictionary of the Occult, conspiracy, occult, African history, melanin, pineal gland, kundalini, even things dealing with the financial stuff, because he's a banker too. I think he works in some type of finance. And he wrote this book. This is a rough draft called The Functionary. This book, I think this one is 400 or close to 500 pages. A book, because this is the first draft. I think the one he got, I've got another extra 100 pages. This was a book called The Functionary. There's a brother by the name of Dr. Blind. It's amazing. It's eerie, because the same time I'm doing my research, he's doing some of the same research. This brother comes to my house and come to find out some of the same bibliography that I've been using over the years, he was using too, and his work was going into this particular book called The Functionary. And this book, you can look up anything. You can look up any kind of thing. He got stuff up in here on the pineal gland. He also got stuff up on here just like, a bitch is a person that will give anybody else booty except you. So in so many words, he said, you only call her a bitch because she won't sleep with you. So he's breaking down those old so-called stereotypes. Then and then when he dealt with love, and I got he dealt with love, and I got a take on the mysteries of love, and he dealt with love, and yet the definitions of love went into almost 2 or 3 pages and highly metaphysical stuff. And so I'm introducing this book. I'm gonna give you the guy's phone number to call. Number one, to give you the stuff, because I know in order for him to do this, he had to cut out the middleman, because he didn't want certain amount of publishers knowing that this stuff was put out as far as white publishers. And certain black publishers just wouldn't understand, because most of those are still on the historical level. You see, now this is like what happened with Wayne Chandler. He put out the Ancient Future, but the guy sat on it, what, about a year, because he didn't know what he had, because, you know, he didn't know what he had. And I think that the only reason why he got it published because Ivan Van Sertima wrote the introduction in that book, and then come to find out Ivan Van Sertima was into all this occult stuff. If you read the introduction to the Ancient Future. So anyway, this guy, he got a black publisher out of D.C., and so as a result, the book cost about $40. It's about 500 pages, but it's self-produced, and you know, as far as self-published. And you can come and you can look over this the next couple of days, but I want to give you the brother's number, and you can order the book. You can order the book. His stuff is and all, not only that, it is stuff. What he did a whole lot of flipping the words back with the English language and different things like that, and different codes and stuff, so you will know that they're talking one thing and telling you another thing. He's excellent at that, because he's got an extensive knowledge into the whole secret societies and all also too. And so we went up to meet this brother, and like I said, when he came to my house, we're sitting up there and the whole time we were talking, we were just writing bibliography. But one of the keys here is, but he has access, because he lives in D.C., so he has access to the Library of Congress. You see what I'm saying? So this is fine, and we telling people to get the book called The Functionary by Dr. Blind, B-L-Y-N-D, P-H-F, Professor Emeritus of University of Chocolate City. Now, it's interesting, because when I was at Benedict, which is supposed to be D.C., but D.C. is not Chocolate City anymore, but it's interesting, because when I was in South Carolina school at Benedict, he was right across going to school at the University of South Carolina at the same time I was at Benedict College. And it's interesting here, because he's from Orangeburg, South Carolina, and I'm from Mullins and all, and it's very eerie and stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, this brother here, so when he came to the house and all that, and he had a lot of the bibliography, I'm saying, oh, so it's some spiritual stuff going. It's about like that aspect of Duke Ellington and your boy Billy Strayhorn. What they say was alter ego type thing that was going down. You get these kind of synchronicities that's going down with 2 people and stuff. This is excellent, and it's almost like a book that I was supposed to write. Nigga did it for me. The same kind of concept here, but I want to give you his phone number so that you can get this book. One brother bought the book, bought 9 of them, because it had that much stuff in it, and information. But it's B-L-Y-N-D, Dr. Blind. Let me give you his number, and you can just call him up on his cell phone and get it yourself. It's called The Functionary. And just call the brother up and get the book. Let's see. His cell phone number is 240-447-6146. 240-447-6146. And I mean, and I mean, he has stuff in here on the pineal gland, melanin, HEMMITT, and all. Not only that too, he got rare. I mean, then he got, and then all of a sudden he'll put a rare picture of Dr. J up in here. And we got pictures of George Clinton up in here, and Hendrix, and stuff up in here. And it's inspired by people. You know, he got a rare picture up in here. They show 2 pictures of Martin Luther King, but he will have the one today of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X that you don't see that much. You see what I'm saying? It's unbelievable the amount of science that's up in here and rare Parliament funkadelic aspects, as well as a aspect of glossary of P-Funk terminology, which you said all that stuff was metaphysical. So when we was talking, I said, well, where did you get this from? He said, no, nobody. All them niggas got their shit from Philadelphia. All of them was inspired by him. Sun Ra. All of them. All of them. The sister Babylonia that I was talking about, she used to dance for Sun Ra, and she said that all them fools used to come to Philadelphia, and they to Sun Ra. John Coltrane, he said even Bill Cosby and all these people, he said a lot of these people you see, they said Sun Ra died broke, obscurity. And when they would, and it's interesting about that because most of the time when Sun Ra would play, it'd be mostly white folks. The government also made sure that black people didn't get into Sun Ra. I'll make it available. There's a documentary on Sun Ra that came out in '93. I think a little right before his death, because he died in '93. And in there, when you start hearing this stuff with Sun Ra is saying, and it's the same thing that Sun Ra said that Jimi Hendrix said. Sun Ra was a little more spiritual, where he called the white man Beaver Cleaver. Beaver. So he didn't get hung up in the particular stuff, but this is what the sister Linda Babylonia says by being apart. She said, Sun Ra, I don't know how many people Sun Ra would have in his band. Looked like damn near 19 people or whatever. He says, interesting that Sun Ra could always tell in the music when the members of the band would go off and start sleeping with white women. He said when they slept with white women, the music would come off, and Sun Ra was like, yo, you got to take a little break and come back when you get yourself together with that white woman. Whenever they would go off and sleep with Beaver Cleave, he could tell the music. He said the music would change. The brothers start playing different when they sleep with the white women. And had an he got a house in Philadelphia with an extensive Camite library. And on this particular tape, he said your religion has failed, your politics has failed. He said the only way out of this is through a certain sound. And so so what they would do is they made sure that black people did not get with Sun Ra. But George Clinton and all of them got their stuff from Sun Ra. You see what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So, because when he met George Clinton, the brother Dr. Blind, that's what Dr. Blind, George Clinton said, yeah, we got it from Sun Ra. And there's another guy in here that's very key. What's the guy name? He's the one that did all of the artwork on the P-Funk and Parliament album covers. Very metaphysical. He went and met this brother. I think it was Pedro Bell. I think that's it. The brother now lives in Chicago, and he's blind. He went blind, but he's very metaphysical. And so the experience, what we was dropping with the stuff that went down, and all this stuff keying in, you need to get this particular functionary. I'll give you the number again, 240-447-6146. His name is Dr. Blind, and this is the functionary. This is very key. But I thought that they very interesting what the sister Linda Babylonia was saying about when Sun Ra said he could tell when they could go off with the white. He could tell in his music, which is interesting here because this is going back to the same concept which one of the brothers was saying to me, that when he was sitting with that white girl, he was always sick. Was always sick. You see, his energy was always cut. Very key. And then we hear this from Sun Ra, and he's very spiritual, and he could tell the difference. You see what I'm saying? Very key at this particular time. All right, let's go on. Y'all all right? Okay. This is very interesting because just to show you how archetypes work. Archetypes are imagery that you would get that you would get at certain times. I've been out of basketball about damn near 10 years. I only watched the playoffs. I said, well, hell, there's too many damn games. I could tune in at the playoffs and watch the playoffs. But I really got out after Dr. J quit. That was it for me. Then it's interesting here. I'm watching a commercial, and all of a sudden I see a guy that looked like Dr. J with this big 1976 ABA fro from the Detroit Pistons. Where did he come from before the Pistons? Huh? Yeah, but he didn't wear the fro and all that. They say he wore it braided. Yeah. Now, it's interesting how imagery, because the same image of Dr. J with the big fro that I used to, when I got into the basketball and all that back in the day with Dr. J, when I saw these commercials and I saw a few pictures, I said, damn, that's Dr. J running. And then I realized it was this particular brother. It's just interesting how things was, and as a result, it single-handedly, because of an image, made me watch the damn playoffs in the championship. And believe me, when I looked at it that way and I saw that Dr. J image, you best believe that some of that has a lot to do with why they won, too. You see what I'm saying? It's everything. Huh?
They criminalized as a little white girl running around with pink afros, and the kids in the suburbs wearing all these distortions of it.
That's why it became a phenomenon.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? And that's some energy. The whole Dr. J thing came back, because that's some very powerful energy. Because I remember when it hit, when that Dr. J stuff was out in the 70s and even in the 80s, it was powerful. You see what I'm saying? And then you got this whole thing that went down with the whole stuff with Michigan. I mean, with Detroit. Everything. And I tuned in just because I was seeing, I was seeing tomorrow with the Big Apple. Because I was imagining, and I started rooting for just that type of energy. You see what I'm saying? So it's a lot of, it's just interesting how there's a lot of things that's going on. Like, take for instance, my man, he would have been one of the winningest coaches. He still is, but it's interesting that he was, when Kobe Bryant got caught with this whole thing in Denver, the coach was in Denver the same day. And people don't know that. That the coach was in Denver the same day that he got set up. It was all a setup. He was in on it too. Coach Jackson. Phil Jackson. You see a whole lot of stuff go down, a lot of nasty stuff go down, but you can't do that on a Mayatian year. In this zone that's going down. Very key.
What'd you call this year?
It's a Mayatian year. I'll go into that in a few minutes. Now, couple of research stuff that I just got to cover, because I haven't been here in about a year. Well, it'll be a year in July. Is this particular information. There's a sister named Jendaya. She just moved to Atlanta. She used to live in Oakland. Then she moved to Denver. Then she moved to Denver. I think she's a colon therapist. Anyway, she gets into a whole lot of health stuff. Just showing you how things going on, give you some stuff that's going on. So she came by the crib to visit me, I think in January. She came to Atlanta because she was going to move. So she swooped by. We were sitting up talking, and she said it's interesting that, number one, couple of things started, she said. Number one, by doing the colon therapy or whatever, she said she noticed that there was a lot of black people that the white man pull up on and tell them to get their gallbladder taken out.
That's right.
She said, you know, she said, well, damn, she said, you know, she said, well, why would you do it? The doctor said, you don't need it for nothing. There's this cracker now. You got a body that's got every organ. You know, you got shit in your foot that you can mash and your doggone back of your neck open up. You got things, every part of your body is made for something. And yet, the cracker gonna tell them that you ain't got no purpose for it. But yet she said it was dozens of black people coming to her, and all of them had their gallbladder taken out, and wasn't nothing wrong with it. The doctor just automatically does it. Now, we do know alchemy. We do know something called a philosopher's stone. And we do know something. The Philosopher's Stone is the ultimate aspect of the combination of melanin. But alchemy, even in the Book of Revelation in your Bible, there's several stones, and the whole Egyptian science is based on the science of stones, the science of precious metals, both in the universe, outside of the universe, on the earth, and inside of your body. Well, why is it all of a sudden you get something that makes gallstones, and although that might be painful or whatever, for the mere fact it can make a stone means that this particular aspect of the gallbladder has something key to do with melanin. It has something key to do with the function of the black body, and they're ripping these damn things out.
Yes, they are.
See what I'm saying? You see. Now, for those people that's in here that got your gallbladder removed, you don't have to worry about it. You're already conscious, so obviously you done something happened that you made a jump into godhood, period. You say, well, how do you know? Well, just look at all the people who ain't conscious, so you don't need to be worrying about nothing. But it's just interesting how she started noticing how, and all these people, she asked the question, well, was anything wrong? No. This the doctor said I didn't need it. See what I'm saying? Okay, let's go on. Not only they went hysterectomy crazy. You know what I'm saying? Everybody you know, and it's prevalent even among white women. They just taking this shit out. But with us, it's got something to do with the missions of the womb, and they got to snatch that shit out. Now, so she said that they had found out that people with sickle cell, because now you got a major influx of Africans who didn't have sickle cell, but it's interesting, those Africans, once they got to America and their diet changed, they started getting the sickle cell. So she said, well, it's simple. She did the research, come to find out that they had some black people who put together a serum that's made of African stuff on the continent, and the only thing they had to do, even with the serum or even without the serum, when these Africans started taking certain things that was from the continent and adding it back in their diet, like certain yams, certain types of fruits, certain different things that they have on the continent, the sickle cell disappeared. So she said, well, hell, this is the key to the sickle cell problem. So she started talking to this other white doctor that didn't know that this is a conspiracy. And the white doctor, I think was this woman, said, well, hell, let's order a batch of this serum for the hospitals. For the hospital. When the serum came, the hospital stopped the serum at the door. Say, that's not allowed up in here. And the serum is put together of different African fruits and minerals or whatever it is, and it automatically, you see what I'm saying, makes the sickle cell dormant. Okay? So she went around to there's a sickle cell organization, and she went to the sickle cell organization, and they told them, we don't want nothing to do with it. Now check this out. Then she kept on doing work, and come to find out, there's a sickle cell organization in every major city in America where they track the sickle cell on the continent of America, which goes back to say that this whole sickle cell thing has got a key to melanin so much that they would put it in the movie Blade, where she cured the vampirism with the sickle cell thing, which in Crawley's book, in his card Death, on Tarot card Death, they got a picture of the black skeleton with an Osiris crown on, with a sickle in his hand. That whole Father Time thing has got something to do with melanin. And it's an attribute, as a lot of people said, but yet it's the most tracked thing in America. They got a sickle cell organization in every major city, and none of them wanted to do anything when it came to getting this particular serum. You see, very key on how this stuff is still warfare. And a lot of missions is going down with that, the gallbladder, all kinds of things. So, So this Christmas, two things happened. My mother got in a car wreck in 2002. This is this Unbreakable. Go back and get the movie Unbreakable, because the people on a very advanced level, right now you are unbreakable. And there's one key about the particular movie. There's a picture of Samuel L. Jackson is talking to Bruce Willis because he's in the movie. And they just switched it around. Samuel L. Jackson was the weakling, and Bruce Willis was the one who was unbreakable. You do the math. You just switch it around. Samuel L. Jackson was the real black man. We're the unbreakable, and the white man is the breaker. You see what I'm saying? Now, you just got to switch it around, but they always give you the clues. There's a picture of Samuel L. Jackson talking to Bruce Willis, and there's an Egyptian stela, which is a stone tablet with its hieroglyphics and the Egyptian scenery on it. He's sitting down right in front of it to let you know who the real Pharaoh was. Nothing is done by accident. But on the unbreakable thing, my brother, I talked about, my brother bought my mama a Mercedes. Did he get these Mercedes down there for real cheap? He got a Mercedes for like $3,000 and stuff. They took shit down to mother. She riding around town, cruising and shit. You know, leaning and doing the gangster lean in her damn Mercedes. And my mama, and a car came and hit my mama, and I think wasn't nothing left but the fucking chair, the car seat. It just completely tore the fucking Mercedes from around the car. I think she was sitting in a car seat in a flame.